Good evening, you're watching this Mongolian World. I'm your host, Ulaanbaatar. And for our top stories, Prime Minister Oyun-Erdene's visit to Germany concludes. 1,000 Mongolian engineers to be trained in Germany. United Nations Working Group, Mongolia has taken significant steps to protect against arbitrary detention. And for the news, stay tuned. At the invitation of Chancellor of Germany Olaf Scholz, Prime Minister of Mongolia Oyun-Erdene paid an official visit to Germany on October 12th through 15th. During his visit, he held talks with Chancellor Scholz, paid a courtesy call to the President of the Federal Republic of Germany, and met with Mongolians residing in Germany. The visit concluded on Saturday. During this visit, we exchanged views on expanding cooperation between Mongolia and Germany, bringing relations to a new strategic partnership level. I had a chance to have a fruitful dialogue with Chancellor Scholz to exchange views on emerging global issues, including the COVID-19 pandemic, regional defense and security, and the situation in Ukraine. The Federal Republic of Germany is Mongolia's trusted partner and neighbor. Our two countries will expand cooperation in various sectors such as politics, defense, green development, and e-governance.
On Friday, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that Germany wants to strengthen ties with Mongolia, citing the country's wealth of key commodities such as copper and rare earth minerals.
Germany wants to support Mongolia as a close partner and also show solidarity. That is why the Prime Minister and I agreed today to further deepen and expand cooperation between our countries. Cooperation with democracies like Mongolia is of strategic importance for Germany. The phase-out of coal will also be a major challenge for Mongolia. And at the same time, the country has enormous potential as far as wind and solar power are concerned. Not only since the Russian war of aggression have we been striving to reduce our dependencies on individual states, especially when it comes to strategically important raw materials. In our diversification strategy, Mongolia will become an important partner for many raw materials.
The important outcomes of the meeting include the signing of an agreement on establishing a rare earth minerals processing plant necessary for copper processing and the production of vehicle equipment. The two sides also agreed to implement a special program for training 1,000 engineers in Germany, specializing in mining, energy, transport, logistics, urban development, IT, agriculture, and forestry. The Prime Minister concluded his briefing with a reminder that democracy doesn't simply appear, that people should create democracy.
Prime Minister of Mongolia Oyun-Erdene paid a courtesy call to President of the Federal Republic of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier. During the meeting, the Mongolian Prime Minister expressed confidence that the visit would be important to bringing Mongolia-Germany relations and cooperation to a new level.
The Prime Minister said that the government of Mongolia attaches utmost importance to its relations with Germany and noted Mongolia's goal of advancing the current level of relations between the two countries, shifting from a comprehensive partnership to a strategic partnership. Noting that Mongolia values democracy and human rights, the German president underscored the significance of high-level visits for further strengthening bilateral ties. The parties agreed to organize high-level visits during the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries in 2024. On the sidelines of his official visit to Germany, Prime Minister of Mongolia Oyun-Erdene met with the president of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, Martin Schulz. The sides exchanged views on opportunities to strengthen cooperation between Mongolia and Germany in mutually beneficial areas, highly praising the foundation's efforts to ensure the participation of Mongolian civil society organizations, women and youth in politics. The Prime Minister said he looked forward to continuing cooperation in strengthening parliamentary governance and the development of political parties. After thanking the Prime Minister for taking the time to meet with him, Foundation President Schulz noted that Mongolia has been a beacon for democracy.
A delegation from the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention visited Mongolia from October 3rd to 14th. The working group met with government officials, judges, prosecutors, lawyers, civil society representatives, and other stakeholders. They visited 21 facilities and interviewed around 65 people in detention.
During a press conference, UN experts said the Mongolian justice system has progressed significantly in protection against arbitrary detention, but it's important to continue improvements as further measures are needed if rights are to be fully respected. According to recent reports, arrests without a judicial warrant are still the norm in Mongolia, and individuals are routinely interrogated in police custody without the presence of a lawyer.
First of all, turning to good practices observed during the visit, the working group commends the recent changes in the law on the National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia. These amendments aim to approximate the National Human Rights Commission to Paris principles, which are the golden standard for the national human rights institutions, and in particular the working group welcomes Article 26, which vests the National Human Rights Commission with the power to impose compulsory 70 directives and recommendations, of which in 2022 the Commission imposed 17 directives and 27 recommendations. We also note that the changes in other legislation mean that there are 3 thematic commissioners now among the now 7 commissioners of the Human Rights Commission, which the working group commends as positive. We also note as positive the increase in the budget of the Human Rights Commission and invite further allocation of resources to enable the Commission not only to work, but to work effectively.
The working group said it has made recommendations to the government on how to further strengthen safeguards. The working group said Mongolia was tackling what appears to be a widespread problem of alcohol abuse, and it recommended that the government approach this from a health and social perspective, suggesting the implementation of community-based treatment. The working group on arbitrary detention was established by the former Commission on Human Rights in 1991 to investigate instances of alleged arbitrary deprivation of liberty. Its mandate was clarified and extended by the Commission to cover the issue of administrative custody of asylum seekers and immigrants. The working group is part of what is known as the Special Procedures of the Human Rights Council. A final report on the visit will be presented to the Human Rights Council in September 2023.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. News Mongolia is highlighting successful women entrepreneurs. Our featured entrepreneur started her business in 2013 with only 3 employees. Her business has expanded and now she employs 23 people. This is Oyun-Erdene. She grew up learning about Mongolian culture and tradition from her parents and grandparents, which led her to start her creative business.
My grandmother used to teach me a lot about tradition and cultural heritage. It nurtured my dream of creating an art gallery that promotes our cultural heritage.
Her company creates home decor with a traditional Mongolian touch, such as decorated wooden chests, felt throw pillows, Mongolian-style paintings, paintings on leather, and quilted items. She faced many challenges as a woman entrepreneur. Now she is studying at the Mongolian State University of Arts and Culture to build on her knowledge.
For 6 or 7 years when I was starting my business, I had many challenges. I don't think that only men are leading in the business environment. There are a lot of successful women entrepreneurs in Mongolia. This is inspired by a quilted felt from Hunu era tomb. We started producing this quilted felt in 2016. I noticed that in other countries, the state supports the creative industry very well. The artist or creator only needs to create, while the state is in charge of promotion and marketing. For example, quilted products take at least 2 months to produce. A memorable creation I'm really proud of is the historical replica of quilted gear given to the recently opened Chinggis Khan Museum.
Oyun-Erdene started her business only with 3 employees, but now she provides jobs for 23 people. She says that women entrepreneurs and startup business founders are creating employment opportunities for others. She added that besides financial support and assistance, women in small and medium-sized businesses need government support at the policy level to create a favorable environment for women and girls wanting to start their own businesses. Here's the international news from our partner agencies. The mayor's office in a key eastern Ukrainian city controlled by pro-Kremlin separatists was struck by rockets on Sunday morning, Russian state agencies reported.
According to the separatist authorities, 4 people were injured. According to RIA Novosti, the municipal building in Donetsk was seriously damaged by the attack, which local separatist authorities blamed on Ukraine. RIA Novosti and local media also reported that 3 cars parked nearby were also destroyed by fire as a result of the strike. As of Saturday morning, there were no reports of casualties, and Kyiv had made no comment on the attack. Kremlin-backed separatist authorities have previously accused Ukraine of numerous strikes on infrastructure and residential targets in the occupied territories, often employing the US-supplied long-range HIMARS rockets without providing corroborating information.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Sunday called for faster military development and affirmed that the ruling Communist Party would maintain absolute leadership over the military.
China's most influential figure in decades was speaking at the opening of a twice-a-decade party congress, which was closely watched by companies, governments, and the Chinese public for signs of its economic and political direction. It comes amid a painful economic slump and tension with Washington and Asian neighbors over trade, technology, and security. The congress will install leaders for the next 5 years. Xi, who's 69 years old, is expected to break with tradition and award himself a third 5-year term as the party's general secretary, entrenching his vision of reasserting its dominance in the economy, society, and culture following 4 decades of market-style liberalization. Xi called for accelerating military and technology development in a televised speech of 1 hour and 45 minutes at some 2,000 delegates in the cavernous Great Hall of the People. Achieving the goals of the Army's centenary as scheduled and accelerating the process of elevating the people's military to world-class standards are strategic requirements for building a modern socialist country was one of the highlights of Xi's speech. During his decade in power, Xi's government has pursued an increasingly assertive foreign policy while tightening control at home on information and dissent. Beijing is fighting with Japan, India, and Southeast Asian governments over conflicting claims to the South China and East China Seas and a section of the Himalayas. The United States, Japan, Australia, and India formed a strategic group dubbed the Quad in response. At the Congress opening session, Xi stressed China's position to uphold world peace. He made no mention of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which Beijing refuses to criticize.
Thousands of protesters, including France's newly crowned Nobel Literature laureate, piled into the streets of Paris on Sunday in a show of anger against the bite of the rising prices and cranking up pressure on the government of President Emmanuel Macron. The March for Wage Increases and other demands was organized by left-wing opponents of Macron and lit the fuse on what promises to be an uncomfortable week for the centrist government. Transport strikes called for Tuesday threatened to dovetail with wage strikes that have already hobbled few refineries and depots, sparking chronic gasoline shortages that are fraying nerves among millions of workers and other motorists dependent on their vehicles, with giant lines forming at gas stations. Macron's government is also on the defensive in parliament, where it lost its majority in legislative election in June. That is making it much harder for his centrist alliance to implement his domestic agenda against strengthened opponents, and parliamentary discussion of the government's budget plan for next year is proving particularly difficult. In a firebrand speech to the Paris March, far-left leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon charged that Macron is fright and that his leadership is plunging France into chaos. Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. Real Madrid and Barcelona both took to the field unbeaten in La Liga this season, with Barca leading its rival on points difference at the top of the league. After the centenary edition of El Clásico at the Bernabeu Stadium, it was Real Madrid who stamped out its authority on the league with a 3-1 victory on Sunday, despite a late comeback from Barcelona. Madrid seemed to be cruising to victory after goals from Karim Benzema and Federico Valverde had given it a 2-0 lead at halftime, while midway through the second half Benzema celebrated as if he had added a third, only for it to be chalked off for offside. But as the game appeared to be petering out towards a regulation Madrid win, Barcelona struck through Ferran Torres to make it 2-1 and set up a grandstand finale. Although Barcelona continued to press for an equalizer, it was Madrid who confirmed its ultimately comfortable victory late on with a Rodrigo penalty. Each side had experienced very different run-ins to the weekend. While Madrid had progressed into the Champions League knockout stages on Wednesday, Barcelona hopes of a last 16 berth now hang by a thread after a dramatic draw against Inter Milan. The European champions Real Madrid showed its ruthless streak in the first half, clinically taking a 2-0 lead into the break. First, 12 minutes in, Karim Benzema fired a deflection into the goal after Vinicius Jr. outstripped Sergio Roberto down the wing but could not get his initial effort past goalkeeper Marcus Ander ter Stegen. Then a glorious team effort doubled Madrid's lead 23 minutes later as Valverde finished off slick passing from Vinicius Jr., Aurelien Tchouameni and Ferland Mendy. Barcelona had only glimmers, half chances that stalled at the last moment, like a ball slid to Robert Lewandowski that his foot could only scoop over, rather than into the goal as it struggled to unlock Real Madrid's defense. And after halftime, the pattern continued with Real controlling possession with ease until on the stroke of 83 minutes, when substitute Ansu Fati's cross found Torres to pull his side back into contention. Fati injected some urgency into Barcelona's attack, but just as the game began to open up, the referee awarded Madrid a penalty for Eric Garcia's trip on Rodrigo. Rodrigo stepped up to the spot and made no mistake with the finish to confirm his side's victory and its place at the top of the table. Here's the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today and thank you for staying with us. We will see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.